Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful beloveds, soul family, Gia Ariati here. I want to jump on in relation to a message for the 144 and specifically a collective energetic that constantly shows up and give a little bit more understanding to bypassing. Because bypassing, we've really put a demonization on and we've really made it a dirty word, right? We've made things like addiction a dirty word. We've made things like dissension a dirty word. We've made all of these spiritual words actually like, oh, yeah, that's gross. Don't do that. Right. And I would like to really explain it from the truth of what it is. That's what I'm here to be, a truth speaker, to explain it in a way that awakens your mind, gives you choice, and you get to see the light and the dark path. So if you haven't received any of my transmissions before, I am Gia Ariati. I am of sound heart and sound mind, and my YouTube content is a little bit multi-D, all things consciousness, transcendence, soul development, and really understanding yourself through the realms of true spirituality, which means the above, the below, the inner, and the outer. And supporting those that are really ready to take accountability, ownership, and walk the path of their soul into their Dharma. Because my purpose on this planet is to activate the remembrance of who you truly are so you can live in alignment with your soul. So we are jumping on from early morning energy, no hairbrush, no makeup. Seems like my YouTube has kind of turned into the most organic version of Gia, which is really hilarious, and perfectly fine because I am a very multifaceted human being. So I do want to place this in the space before we start talking about bypass is that I was sitting this morning contemplating a little bit around my brand. So my brand is Spirit Prestige. It's a very elite, conscious business brand. It is high value. It is a high ticket offering for spiritual entrepreneurs and conscious business creators to build a baseline of their business and provide it to humanity as a long-standing, sustainable empire. Now, it has a specific look, and I was like, that is absolutely authentically me. But I'm also very much authentically this. And then I also have a page with my beloved, which is called Squills, Moans and Flames, which is all things taboo, sexual, temple arts, which is also authentically me. And I also have the DAP process, which is a real corporate style facilitation, which is also authentically me. And I think what happens is we try and pigeonhole ourselves into a brand or a style or an expression of like, this is who I am, day in, day out. Well, not really, because we are so multifaceted that we can show up in one day being this is who I am and the energy of whatever archetypal expression or personality wants to play or create, and then you move into others, and this is like the cycle of experience, the cycle of being. And if we pigeonhole ourselves to one archetypal expression, if we try and say that this is who I am, if I am just the high priestess and the goddess, then what about my businesswoman? What about my facilitator? What about my CEO? They don't fit together. So you can marry and merge some of these things together, but in truth, when you watch people go through their cycles, they're integrating one archetype. They're not actually integrating their full human experience. And so that's why when you are very autistic and ADHD, you have so many things that you want to do because that's actually authentically who you are. You're a very multifaceted, multi-spectrum human. And so that's why multiple businesses, brands, or messages might be for you too. All right, so before we talk into any more of this, drop in who you are, where you're watching from. Let's get some comments, some engagement. Let's share and remind our audience of what we're talking into, which is bypassing. So, spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is basically where you sit in your upper chakras, you are disassociated from being anchored in your heart, and you are often out of body. So bypassing means that you tend to spend, your light body spends a lot of time up in the ether. Now, spiritual bypassers, which I've been a master at, when they're in it, don't even realize they're in it. One of the techniques I use in the mystery school is, all right, where's your light body? Like, where are you? Where's your being, your essence, your soul? And we get a visual interpretation of where are your feet. And sometimes their feet are up in the heavens. And we're like, okay, you have to bring your feet down to your physical feet. That's what embodiment integration is. And you have to constantly bring them down into the body. And that's scary as fuck for a lot of these people. They don't like being in their physical. They don't like being in body. They don't like feeling the pain that has been bypassed. Or in this case, we're talking specifically about remembrance, and how important remembrance is to actually look at when you've bypassed something, because there's a lot of information that at a human level you cannot cognitively land and interpret. So for instance, as my experience as the goddess Isis, now you're more than welcome to look up the Expose of the Gods series that I started and never completed because of my multifacetedness, which will probably go forever. I'll probably do another one and another one every like 6, 12, 18 months. But that process for me was, I had to bypass so many things in my experience, because what it was taking me to was something that I couldn't cognitively understand. Going into the memories of an Egyptian temple, going into the reason that my relationships were attracting these Trinity distorted, polyamory mutated experiences where I was always second best, that it came from an Egyptian past life. You know, I wasn't ready for that. I was very much, this is who I am in this time. I didn't even believe in past lives at that point in time, right? So my mother was a past life hypnosis therapist, and I was like, okay, sure, right? So that is bypass, deniability, rejection. That's where we're not open-minded to go, well, maybe what if it was true? What if there is a potential that past life hypnosis was a real thing, and that you were going into your cellular memory and your subconscious to remember something about yourself, that whether or not it's important, what does it have for you here and now? Now, I didn't understand those things. So I bypassed a lot of things, and I would push away and reject a lot of things until the time my soul was ready. So this is what's important to understand around bypass is, you will bypass something that has a deep remembering, a deep vulnerability, and a deep truth of who you are until you're ready to look at it, until you're ready to actually claim it and own it. Now, I was working with a client yesterday, and she went to launch her business and her nervous system shut down, and she couldn't eat, sleep, breathe properly for, I think it was a week or whatever. And she came into my space because she knew that there was something happening, that every time she tries to step into her purpose, something happens and she shuts down. Every time she moved forward, something would happen and she'd shut down. And I was like, oh, perfect. This is my thing. This is what I do. I help people to understand the thing that they've been bypassing, that their body protects them from and shuts them down in the remembrance of who they are. And so basically, in a nutshell, she went through this discovery process into her internal, where she was denying the hell that exists in the lower dimensional realms based on the judgments of her angelic self, that just wanted to constantly be that martyr, that superiority complex, and fix the world because the world is wrong, right? Which is so many of the 144 story. Like every single human being that I've ever worked with that has a connection to the angelic realms has this narrative. And it's this idea that the angels are more superior and better. And then there's also a rejection of that, because you don't want to be better and you want to be equal. And so it becomes this entangled mess. And so instead of looking at it and seeing what the truth is, which is actually that those that are in the lower dimensional realms of hell or descended or consciousness actually don't know any better. And I think this is really hard for most people to understand, is they don't know anything beyond their bandwidth of consciousness. So if you see someone as a one-dimensional lens, this is their bandwidth of consciousness. If you see someone from God consciousness, it is infinite. You can't even put it into a circle, right? So the bandwidth of consciousness, you're working within the bandwidth of what that mind can perceive, which is the reality. That's the dimension. So one-dimensional consciousness is very limited. So when you're down in hell, if you're from that realm of dimensional perspective, it's just experience. It is just that level of mind experiencing itself. And so the angel or the angelic higher God consciousness has to understand that there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to change, there's nothing to wrong, there's nothing to manipulate. But until we stop bypassing, or like I did, shut my complete third eye down, I was like, I don't want to know about the evil in the world. Now, that's what I've just moved through. 19 months of understanding evil because I didn't want to know about the evil in the world. I know it existed, but I don't want to know. I just don't need to put my focus there, right? That's bypassing. I don't need to be around toxic people, bypassing. I'm protecting my peace, bypassing. Right? All of these things are complete bypassing narratives because you don't want to see the truth. You don't want to see the truth of where you engage with it, where you're creating it, where it's your fault, where you're about to descend into the darkness. So this bypass is protection, but it's also something that becomes very destructive and creates deniability in your reality. So thankfully, women like this were willing to actually look at it. And we went down to hell and we looked at it in truth and released the stories, released the judgments, released the separation of the ascended and the descended self. So she could unify, connected the light and the dark elements. So she could see in neutrality. So she can serve every single person that comes in her field in safety and recognition. There's nothing scary when you see it in truth. You're not afraid of those beings because they have no power over you. Their bandwidth is this big. Yours is this big. Like, it's actually super ridiculously delusional when you see it. It's laughable. You're afraid of the beings down there, really? Like, why? They're this smart. That's what you could do. That's how you could explain it. And so you have the opportunity to sort of see what all of this really is, from the above, the below, the inner, the outer. Why is it that a being does what it does? You're never going to understand it if you're looking at it from the lens or perspective of you. And this is where humans in general, holy shit, the contrast between human communication is, I expect everyone to see the world through my lens. Well, that's completely delusional. And you're just going to constantly have challenges show up because I see through my lens of experience. You see through your lens. How can you explain to me what you have experienced through your lens so I can understand you better, so I can serve you better, so I can love you more? Not, I'm going to keep seeing you through my lens and be like, well, I wouldn't do that. That doesn't make sense. I would want this. That's not how we as human beings can relate to each other. And so this is like such a beautiful, powerful gift if you're willing to see it in the form of what the truth is in this way of being. The more that you can see from neutrality, the more that you can see that the above has a higher bandwidth, right? So if we look at the upper realms, it's just more information. Lower realms, less information. Anything that's dark within you requires to be illuminated. So the darkness requires illumination, light, to receive the information that was not brought forward. So bypassing is sitting up in so much information, light, frequency, because there's stuff inside the body, in the subconscious, in the void, in the experience, that is too uncomfortable comfortable to shine that illumination on, because it needs to be brought forward to the mind. So bypassing will happen. Disassociation, spiritual love and light, don't need to see, I'm protecting my peace. I just don't allow certain things into my energy. These are the only things I speak into the world, blah, 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 blah. And if you would like to understand this more, we have an ebook that is launching soon for women, for priestess, for goddess, that explains all things, energetic vampirism. It has bypassing, reptilian consciousness, draconian, understanding that when you're a being of light, you'll be always attracted to the dark. How do you use that as a tool for soul development and empowerment? So do stay tuned to our email list. Join our email list in links below so that you can get all our special offers and events. And my beloved must be here at the gate, and I'm mid live stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually close this call, and I'm going to silence him for a second. Because I was like, not sure we're going to have so much time. So what I want you to look at is bypassing and what it is that's in the subconscious, the darkness, the lack of information that if you brought it up now would be a lot to digest, right? It's understanding that when you're bypassing information, whether it be considered trauma, whether it be considered remembrance, whether it is considered something that's too challenging to integrate, that's why we bypass. If you want to shift from bypassing into embodiment, it means recognizing that there are pockets that need to be read, received, and revealed to oneself. So if you would like any information, I'm going to go on my relationship and my connection and the coffee that's arriving. Please do comment, and we might have a part 2 of this video to fit all the things that we didn't fit in. And if you would like to work with me directly, you'll find the links below. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Until next time, Adonai, I love you.